This is Nick.
This is Jack.
Welcome back. It is Monday, December 5th, and today's pod is the best one yet. It's a T-Boy.
It smells like a T-Boy today.
Just kind of seemed like a T-Boy. Jack, what's our first story for today's pod?
Rolex, the watch company, just launched certified pre-owned Rolexes.
Yetis, Rolex is taking down Folex.
For our second story, Northrop Grumman just unveiled the most powerful warplane in war history, the B-21 Raider.
All right, the way Jack and I see it, the most expensive bomber ever made, maybe the cheapest bomber ever made.
And our third and final story is Netflix. They just invited tens of thousands to join the Netflix Preview Club.
Because feedback is a gift.
But Yetis, before we hit that fantastic December
Except
mix,
if you didn't ask for feedback at that moment, at which point it is just criticism, and it's going to lead to a relationship argument.
Yeah, that's just criticism.
Yeah, you can talk to your therapist about that one. But yeah, Jack, this is a fantastic mix. I love this mix.
Yetis, are you looking for a job right now?
Besties, are you considering a career pivot?
Because New York City is hiring a rat czar.
Yeah, real job with the real city of New York City. Real thing.
The New York City rat czar, it's a lot like a CEO.
It is, Jack. It is, Jack. It's a chief extermination officer. It really is.
I'll tell you, though, it pays less like a rat, more like a lion.
I mean, the official title is Director of Rodent Mitigation. Put that on a LinkedIn.
And this position, real position, pays up to $170,000 a year plus benefits.
170 grand a year. That's beating investment banking, man.
Although you have to be nocturnal to perform the duties of this job.
That's true. And you do have to watch out for the subway cars. They come fast.
Yeah, you do. Plus, the rat czar actually has a license from the mayor to kill.
Yeah, and it has a bigger budget than the pigeon lady from Home Alone 2.
Now we're looking at the job post. You must be a full-time New York City resident. You must be proficient in PowerPoint and have excellent interpersonal skills.
And be willing to engage in wholesale slaughter, Jack.
It really says that.
Yetis, if it squeaks, you squash.
If it moves, you mash.
Now, we should point out New York did see a 71% jump in rat complaints, but it's still a very clean city.
It's a fine city. I loved living there.
Jack, when I was 3, I licked the sidewalk because I was curious, and it tasted great.
That's ill-advised, but there are many a street sweeper in that city.
It does taste like cake.
But the worst rat city in America, we should point out, it's not New York City.
Yeah, Chicago apparently does logistics and does vermin.
So anybody looking to expand their horizon,
anyone who's looking to get out of that comfort zone,
you could become Gotham's first rat czar.
Or, as the commissioner of New York's Department of Sanitation put it,
rats are absolutely going to hate this announcement. But the rats don't run this city. We do.
Yes, we do, Commissioner Tish. Yes, we do.
Let's exterminate our 3 stories.
15 years before this song, 2 boys from the Northeast met in a dorm. They had an idea that caused a cultural storm. It's the best one yet, but the best is the norm. Jack, Nick, that's it. I don't even think they need to practice. 50%, that's a fat tip. T-Boy City on your list. If you know, you know, cause we ready to go. We can't wait no more, so just start the show. Start the show.
For our first story, Rolex watches are in such high demand right now. Rolex is creating its own second-hand market.
Because you should never fight time, tigers, or trends.
Yetis, nothing screams I bought Bitcoin at $600 like a Rolex.
It's not a timepiece. A Rolex is a flex.
Jack, you know why you wear a Rolex?
Why?
Because you want someone to ask what you do for a living.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It pairs well with the second boat you have at your third home.
Rolex. Turns out Rolex is actually the largest of all the luxury Swiss watchmakers.
They sold 1 million watches last year and brought in about $8 billion in sales.
Now, Rolex fits right now with the supremium trend Jack and I have been talking about.
Premium?
No.
It's super premium.
Super premium. Like $8 billion in sales divided by 1 million watches. Jack, whip out the whiteboard for us.
That's $8,000 a watch. That's easy math.
Not too shabby. And last year, Jack, remember we covered the Rolex shortage, the old Rolex shortage.
There were not enough of those fancy watches to go around, so prices for second-hand watches were popping by 75%.
In fact, like the top investment of 2021, it was the Swiss watch. That's what it was.
If you just bought a Swiss watch, that would do better with your money than if you invested with a hedge fund.
Hey, Warren Buffett, just get your wrist involved. That's all you got to do.
Now, for the first time, Rolex, the corporation based in Switzerland, they feel jealous of this secondary watch trend.
We noticed Rolex really wants in on the rising prices of used Rolexes, which they don't sell.
Rolex has FOMO, so finally they will sell them. They just launched verified used Rolex as a marketplace.
And now you've heard of this kind of concept before. Like, Jack, what's the classic example?
The certified pre-owned BMW. Come on down for the holiday sales event.
Same concept here, but it's for a wristwatch, not a station wagon.
If you're going to drop a lot of money to buy a used watch, you want to make sure it's real.
Yeah, so you're probably going to feel more secure buying a verified Rolex from Rolex, even if you pay a little bit more for that verification.
It's a certified pre-owned Rolex. It's not a Folex.
Get this, Yetis. The #1 purchaser of a brand new Rolex, it's a boomer. That's not surprising. It would be a baby boomer.
What is surprising is that the #1 buyer of a used Rolex is a member of the Zillennial generation.
It turns out, according to a recent survey, half of millennials say they are interested in buying a previously owned watch.
But only 12% of boomers would even consider that.
Because Zillennials are driving a second-hand renaissance out there.
We're down with a little bit of dirt.
Yeah, we're already jumping in Ubers and Airbnbs, shared cabs, and shared homes.
We don't need new gold mined from a new gold mine for our new watch.
Old gold works fine for us.
Old gold for my jewelry, that would be fine.
The older the golds. Oh, I guess the happier we are. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Rolex?
The trend is your friend.
Yetis, some of the best advice Jack and I ever got. If you want to live long, don't fight 3 things. And what are those 3 things, Jack?
Time, tigers, or trends.
Don't fight time, don't fight tigers, and don't fight trends.
Well, over the last 3 years, secondhand is a powerful trend. And Zillennials powered that trend.
Rolex ignored that trend. It hoped it would die out. It dreamt that you would just buy a new Rolex watch from Rolex instead.
Rolex stubbornly stood by their new Rolex business.
Yes, it did.
So they lost out on several years of what was record high used watch sales.
Well, now Rolex has finally embraced the trend, and it is capturing a whole new revenue source.
It launched certified pre-owned Rolex because you should never fight time, tigers, or trends.
The trend is your friend. For our second story, Northrop Grumman just unveiled the world's most advanced aircraft ever, the B-21 stealth bomber.
But the goal of this weapon of war is actually to avoid war.
Yeah, the way we see it, this is a warplane that's kind of an anti-war plane. Can we say that, Jack?
Now, on Friday, the military defense company, Northrop Grumman, did a product unveil.
They didn't roll out a new smartphone, a new iPad, a new electric golf cart. Like, some guy didn't get on stage in like a black turtleneck and one more thing.
No, but there was a Tony Stark spirit in the room because they just unveiled the most sophisticated warplane in human history, and they're calling it the B-21 Raider.
It's a pretty good name, actually. Yeah, this replaces the 33-year-old B-2 bomber.
The B-2 bomber, you might have seen one of these once during a flyover. It's black. It's shaped like an isosceles right triangle with a jagged, end of it.
I'm impressed with the geometry, Jack. Actually, Jack, you've actually seen this plane. Like, you've seen this plane live.
Twice. I saw a flyover at the Indy 500 when I was like 12. And at the big house when I was in grad school.
Okay, but Jack, here's the key question. You saw the plane, but did you hear the plane?
I'm glad you asked. You did not notice the plane until it was above you because this thing is stealth and it glides silently. It's incredible.
Yeah, actually, this new plane, this thing can be flown remotely. Like, this whole plane turns into a drone.
And it's going to be even more stealth than the old B-2 bomber.
In fact, one expert said that this B-21 would have been the perfect plane for that attack scene in Top Gun 2.
The radar, all those guns, they wouldn't even have seen it.
Hey, Mav, it's time to buzz the tower.
The one thing that hasn't been stealth is the stock jump for Northrop Grumman the past 12 months.
It turns out Northrop Grumman is one of the best performing stocks in the entire stock market this year.
It's up 55%. Maybe because the Air Force is going to buy at least 100 of these mega jets.
Yeah, and there ain't no Black Friday discounts on these kind of fighter jets. There's no bulk discount either on this thing.
Okay, the price tag for this 30-year B-21 program?
$203 billion with a B dollars for this 30-year program.
Northrop Grumman gets America's $203 billion. Not Lockheed Martin, not Boeing, Northrop Grumman.
Yeah, and their stock jumped another 3% on the news on Friday that they're signing the deal.
Enough about Northrop Grumman. What about the United States Air Force? What do they say about this new plane?
There was one word that the U.S. Air Force said that Jack and I thought was particularly fascinating.
Deterrent. They called it a visible and flexible nuclear deterrent.
Because this thing can penetrate enemy air defenses and reach targets anywhere in the world, and you can't even hear it.
You can't even see it.
It's almost like Narnia. You have to believe in it for this thing to exist. So, Jack, what's the takeaway for our buddies over at Northrop Grumman and the whole fighter jet industry?
Everything has an ROI.
Yetis, $203 billion. That is a lot of money. $203 billion is the equivalent value of 40 lifts.
But in any investment decision, you can't just consider the costs. You must think about the benefits.
And the intended benefit of this aircraft was the very last word in their statement, deterrent.
Deterrent, because the hope is the B-21 is so intimidating, so powerful, it keeps belligerent dictators behaving.
The hope is that this machine helps the world avoid war and the horrible human and financial costs that come with war.
Now, with that ROI perspective, this plane costs a lot in the short term, but could save money in the long term.
Now, this also could create an arms race, and $200 billion is a really large upfront price tag.
But the billions and human lives saved deterring war is hopefully greater than those costs.
Every investment should have an ROI, and the B-21's ROI is avoiding war.
Now, a word about our sponsor, Robinhood.
A lot of Yetis don't realize how much prep work goes into this pod.
We spend hours every morning jumping in T-Boy style to earnings reports, CEO tweets, breaking news headlines.
Yeah, Jack and I are toggling tabs like you toggled IM convos in 2004.
Having 8 tabs open can be stressful. You don't need that, especially when investing.
Robinhood offers it all in one app.
Whether you want to trade options, ETFs, or stocks through Robinhood Financial,
or you want to buy some Bitcoin on Robinhood Crypto,
you can do it all on the Robinhood app.
If you're not investing in Robinhood yet, to get started, go to Robinhood.com/Tboy and choose your free stock.
That's Robinhood.com/TBOY. Limitations apply.
Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. All investments involve risk.
By the way, this podcast is not owned or part of Robinhood, and we are not employees of Robinhood.
For our third and final story to kick off the week, Netflix and Disney and Amazon all apparently have preview clubs, and we never got invited.
I know. Because the most important phase of launching a product is the pre-launch.
Jack, if we're going to talk about clubs, we got to talk about our favorite quote ever when it comes to clubs. What is that quote?
I would never want to be a part of a club that would have me as a member.
Groucho Marx, I would never want to be part of a club that would have me as a member. It's just great.
Well, the Wall Street Journal just told us about Netflix's preview club.
We're not talking about like your movie buff buddies who just watch trailers on the first Saturday of every month.
Although that sounds like a fun club. I might get in on that.
Let's get invited on that one too.
The Netflix Preview Club is a select elite group of Netflix subscribers who get invited to see Netflix content months before everyone else does.
It's like the SEAL Team 6 of streaming. Jack, Squid Game Season 2, Netflix Nancy in Nebraska already got a sneak peek.
Yes, Netflix Preview Club gets previews of the top Netflix movies and shows on one condition.
You can't spoil the ending for anyone.
Yeah, don't tell anyone about the show.
But actually, the main condition is a little different. The main condition is you got to tell Netflix what you thought of the movie in great detail.
The key of the Preview Club is give Netflix feedback so they can tweak the movie.
And here's what fascinated Jack and I. It turns out that Netflix's Preview Club isn't new and isn't the only one.
According to Variety, it's been around for over a year at Netflix, and Netflix has already improved movies based on feedback from members of the Preview Club.
Jack, apparently the first rule of Preview Club is you don't talk about Preview Club, and nobody spoke about Preview Club.
For example, the Preview Club was already used for the movie Don't Look Up, the Leonardo DiCaprio movie on Netflix about the meteor coming to planet Earth.
And the Preview Club members said that Don't Look Up was too serious a movie when they checked it out.
Right. And they checked it out months before we all got to. So the creators had time to act on that feedback and add some funny parts.
Yeah, Jack, like this random Jonah Hill scene just in the Oval Office in the middle of the movie. Boom, out of nowhere.
That's from the feedback from the preview club.
And Netflix's Don't Look Up ended up getting nominated for an Oscar.
Now, this makes sense because a typical movie films 20 hours of footage for each 1 hour that makes the final cut of the movie.
So, Jack, for every one scene that's actually in the movie, the director had like 20 scenes to choose from.
Yeah, so the director makes a bunch of decisions, but then they get feedback from the thousands of preview members. The director might swap out one scene for another one.
And what we're saying here is that Netflix is basically just crowdsourcing the final version of all the movies you're watching on Netflix.
Yeah, kind of.
Netflix is turning its audience into its editors.
Yeah, kind of.
And it's not just Netflix that seems to be doing this.
Amazon Prime Video is doing this. Hulu is doing this. Preview clubs are the new rage.
Jack and I are literally not invited to any of them. So, Jack, what's
We've gotten 0 invitations.
the takeaway for our buddies over at Netflix?
The most important phase of a launch is the pre-launch.
Yetis, Jack and I are huge believers in the importance of creative instinct, going with your gut and pulling with that gut.
Creators decide with their artistic gut what is going to be compelling, and then they make it.
Yeah, but feedback, it's a gift. It's a data point. It improves the product. So why would you wait until after you've launched the product?
The optimal moment for feedback is before the launch, so you have time to improve it before launch.
Entrepreneurs often ask friends and family to try out a product first, tell them what they think.
Established brands do focus groups, grabbing random people off the street and paying them to try out the product and give their opinion.
Netflix kind of kicked this up a notch. They created a preview club that people are actually excited to join.
Kind of an awesome way to get feedback.
It is.
The most important phase of a launch is the pre-launch.
Jack, can you whip up the secondhand takeaways for us over there?
Rolex just launched a marketplace for certified pre-owned Rolexes.
Yetis, never fight time, a tiger, or a trend. The trend is your friend.
For our second story, Northrop Grumman just unveiled the B-21 Raider for $200 billion.
But everything has an ROI, a return on investment.
For our third and final story, Netflix is reportedly inviting tens of thousands of people to join their preview club.
Really, invites get lost in the mail. The most important part of a product's launch is the pre-launch. Now, time for the best fact yet. This one sent in by Michaela Cully from lovely Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
At dinner tonight, if you have a 2-foot piece of particular bread, you're actually hanging on to culinary history.
Yeah, that's because the French baguette was just granted World Heritage status by the United Nations.
That baguette is now protected like the pyramids of Egypt are.
It's protected like the turtles of the Galapagos, Jack.
Now, this part was shocking. The French bake and sell about 20 million baguettes every single day.
Now, given France's population, that means that there is one baguette for every third French person every single day. But get this, each baguette feeds 3 people. Ipso facto, every French person is eating a baguette every single day.
Now, we said last week that French people were basically 10% butter.
I remember we said that, Jack, and no one seemed to be offended.
Apparently, they're 1/3 baguette.
That's a compliment, by the way. I mean, it's like a very skinny look.
I'm half Eggo, so.
Yetis, you look fantastic to start the week. And remember, the rats don't run this city.
We do, Commissioner Tish. We do.
Jack and I will see you tomorrow. And before we go, happy birthday to Yeti Axel Pirani, who we do know it's your birthday down in San Mateo, California.
And happy birthday to Maria Gracio down in Santo Amador, Portugal.
And Jordan Delgado just moved into a lovely new apartment in downtown LA. Get some drinks at the proper hotel.
We want to give a quick shout out to Nick Locicero from Astoria, who has a new architecture job at Bryant Park.
That is a very nice location.
And remember, the rats don't run this city.
Nicholas Cicero does.
And to anyone else celebrating something today, make it a T-bar.
Celebrate the wins.
This is Jack. I own stock of Disney, Netflix, and Amazon. And Nick and I both own stock of Airbnb and Robinhood. And we both own some Bitcoin.
A Bitcoin named Ben.
Now, a word about our sponsor, Robinhood.
A lot of you listen to our show while you're driving.
2 hands on the wheel. Keep it 10 and 2.
You might be cruising Chris, no rush, stay in the right lane.
Or you might be Darlene from Duncan, dotting from lane to lane.
And there are different drivers on the road. There are different investors too.
Maybe you're cruising down the long-term lane with stock investing, or maybe you're a more advanced full-speed trader.
Well, the Robinhood app helps put you in the driver's seat wherever you're at in your investing journey.
If you're not investing on Robinhood yet, to get started, go to Robinhood.com/TBoy and choose your free stock.
That's Robinhood.com/TBOY. Limitations apply.
Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, all investments involve risk.
By the way, this podcast is not owned by or part of Robinhood, and we are not employees of Robinhood. And not like that movie club your buff buddies join where they watch trailers just on the first Saturday of every month.
Now you're buff buddies. You're movie buff buddies.
Oh, sorry.